naked shamanism. Welcome to With Insights Radio. I'm your host, Iggy Garcia. I will take you on a journey across the universe through shamanism, metaphysical, and holistic. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
All right, I want to welcome everybody to the show. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me know that you can hear me. It's super important, because if you can't hear me, then we don't have a show. Just want to take a little time today and just talk a little bit about different things. I know the world has been pretty consumed with tragedy and events and different things and all kinds of, man-made dilemmas and man-made things. So hopefully I want this to be like a participation show today. So those of you who are online who can see me and you can hear me, just fill in and feel free to, share your thoughts with me. And because what we're going to talk about today is how you can be of service to others, how to be of service to the world. And that's pretty big. That's part of being human being, not just practitioner. It's about sharing your feelings, your emotions, your spirit, and everything that is you. So before I got started, I tried to run the track and it didn't work, which is normal. That's technology, but we move forward, we move on. So the topic today is, how do we help each other? That's basically how it is. We figured out how not to help each other and how to be anti-humans sometimes and be, rude to each other and think we're above other people. The world's been doing this for centuries. There's nothing new here. This isn't something that we've invented just recently. It feels like it sometimes. It feels like what we're doing is fairly new, and the ground that we're traveling is something that seems, why are we doing this to each other? Why do we kill each other? Why are we going through all this stuff? Well, it's pretty simple, because that's who we are. That's who we are as human beings. We do these things. In order for our survival, we do some things that, we just don't, when you think about it, you're wondering, man, why did we do that? Why did we agree to that? Why did we, push people off their lands? Why did we conquer these people? Why did we do all these things? Because that's how human nature is. My friend and I, David, Two Crows, we're actually talking about that. We were talking about that on our way driving to Alum Creek Beach today, because we wanted to kind of see the area and check it out before we actually, had the drum circle tomorrow from 12 to 5 and at Alum Creek Beach, and scoping it out, just checking it out. But we talked a little bit about that, how humans, how there were more than maybe several species of humanoid type people who actually lived on this planet. And I found that really interesting, because they just found some new evidence of new people and new genomes and stuff. So I thought that was pretty interesting, how one group will push out another group in order to survive. And none of that's changed. None of that's changed, and none of that probably won't change, unfortunately, unless we decide at some point, some level, to say, hey, I'm tired of this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm ready to, be something better than we are. But some people do things out of, this type of character because they believe that's the right way to do it. That's the right way to live. And I'm sure the Roman Empire and other empires before them, did things the way they did because that's just the way it was. And that's kind of how we live. We kind of do things because that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, when we do just the way it is, we affect other people. We affect other beliefs, other types of religions. Even I don't even think religion was even around back then. Forms of religion were, some type of deity worshiping. So human beings dominate human beings. That's what we do. Human beings, we just dominate each other. There's just something about being, a species that likes to control other people. And we like to control the world. We've been kind of given that permission. We've been given domain over that. For some of us, in the biblical terms and in religious terms, man has domain over the world, over the animals, and all the things with that. So we kind of buy into that story. I'm not sure if that's true or right, but regardless, I say that because I've talked about that. I've seen that. I've experienced that. I experienced it in my own family. People trying to, dominate me and try to put me in a corner and try to, say the things that I do aren't Catholic or Christian or whatever, with the little fingers up in the air here. But you reach a point where, you really don't care anymore. You reach a point where you're like, it's not even about when you say, well, they don't pay my bills. It's not that. You just reach a point where you're just like, I'm 49 years old and I don't want to go through this anymore. I'm really sick and tired of it. It took me 49 years to figure that out. But you reach that point. You reach that peak and you're just done. You're just done. So, but then you get to the point where you're up there by yourself and you're going, wow, is there anybody else up here? Does anybody else feel like this with me? Well, what can I do to make a difference in the world? What can I do to change and bring harmony and peace to this planet? You're talking about almost 7.5 billion people. It might even be more now. But anyhow, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, and there's a lot of beliefs. That's almost 8 billion. We'll just say 8 billion. 8 billion beliefs simultaneously playing out on this planet. 8 billion people. Now, you have to think about that for a minute. Think about it. 2 billion people, 3 billion people, 4 billion people, 5. When you just have 5 people in a room, they can change the whole dynamics of what happens. Just your neighbor, your cousin, your brother, your sister. It only takes one person. One person can change the whole dynamics of the world, can change the whole dynamics of situation. So that's where we're at. How do we change the dynamics of the world? How do people change our dynamic of our world and how we feel? And we also talked about this. Dave and I were talking about this. This was a big question I had. Will we make a difference in people's lives? Will we know? And, that's kind of a concern for me because I'm like, I don't do things because I want to know. I just want to know that I'm doing things and I'm in the right direction. That's just kind of how I am. I just need to know I'm in the right direction and I'm making a difference. And I got validation of that. I got validation on that more than once, but I got a really good validation on Saturday of last week when we were over at the Magic Garden. And I was telling David, this young lady was playing a flute at one of our Ash Cave gatherings that we did. And she told me how she was touched by me complimenting her and telling her, I played this flute. First time I've really been playing. And she remembered, the compliment that I said, because it was beautiful. I said, that was beautiful. But you know what? I came back, maybe it was a couple of years later. I found out later how big of an impact just those words were. What I told her, what I said, what I spoke, what Spirit led me to say. And I get kind of choked up about it because she goes, you were my inspiration. There's one thing when someone tells you, the reason I'm playing flute is this, but when someone tells you inspired me, that's huge. That's very powerful. And when she started playing the flute, I was just blown away. What she had learned from the point where she started and where she is now. And she's playing in different places and she's traveling and doing things. And it's her initiative. She did it, but somebody believed in her. And that's one of the things where I'm going to talk about. Belief in another person, belief in yourself. A lot of us come from homes where somebody, you may be fortunate enough to say that someone was very, said you can do anything you want. But the majority of us aren't that lucky. The majority of us, we don't have that opportunity to say oh yeah, you can be whatever you want, son. You can. I try to do that in my home. I try to do that with my kids, with realistic, parameters and ideas and goals and settings and stuff. But, I come from a home where not necessarily everybody was positive and not everybody said, hey, you can do it. You can make it. It was more like, you can't make it without me, or, you got to work hard, So that's one of those principles. That's one of those things that I want to talk about. One of those things about how we can be to service. Be in service, number one, to honor yourself, to honor who you are as a human being, by honoring who you are and believing in the things that you can do and the things that are possible, you can change the world. You can change anybody's world. You can change your children's world, your family's world, your nephew's world, your mom and dad's world, just by shifting into a different belief system and going, you know what, I believe that. I don't believe that. And, that's one way in being in service to the world is by you being in service to yourself, to honoring who you are as a human being and the things that you can do. So for me to say this to this lady, and I was legitimately honest about it, she played great. She was playing good back then. And when I told her that, and she, we played together with the drum, and she was excited. She was like a little kid. I was just like blown away. And I was just like, that's one of many things that I've seen people do and where they've come from and where they've grown. But it's beautiful to know that the efforts that you put into the world blossom. You know, you sow those little seeds, you plant those little seeds, and they grow. And they grow, and that's important, because that also helps us as human beings. And yeah, that might be a little bit of ego, but sometimes our ego has to be, you know, acknowledge that, you know, we're in the right place. Because as human beings, we want to know that we're heading in the right direction. That's why we become friends with people. That's why we try to do new things, because we want to be part of things. To be human is to be part of a tribe, to be part of a group of people who are like-minded, who are like you, who are willing to step out of their comfort zone, not necessarily alone, but together. And when they step out together, they can do amazing things. And then when you step away from them, you keep doing amazing things. You keep growing. You keep doing this magical stuff, which is really cool and really powerful. And so I invite you to honor who you are as a human being, to honor the space you are. And I know that could be difficult for some, and I know that's a challenge for some. Do it little by little. Do it little by little, working together. And that's super, super, super powerful when you can do it together. Now, there's different things we can do to help other people. There's a lot of people out there who are in great need of things. I saw a guy who actually washes homeless people's hair, and he cuts that and washes them. Now, he doesn't do it because he, you know, it was one of the things he's not going to make money off. That's not why he does it. He does it because in his heart, he has a gift that he can share with the world. And if that gift is cutting someone's hair and making them look beautiful, then that's amazing. That's honoring himself and honoring somebody else. All of us have gifts. There's nobody on this planet who has not one gift in there. Some of us are multi-talented and multi-gifted. But everybody, every human being who's ever been born on this planet, good or bad, has had gifts. How they use their gifts, well, that's all another question. So I invite you to use your gifts. Use your gifts. Like this man who is a famous, I'm not sure his name, so I don't want to quote him. But anyhow, he cuts hair. He cuts hair in the streets to the homeless people, and he beautifies them, makes them feel empowered, and it makes them feel beautiful. Sometimes it's just, we just need somebody to look at us and say, you know, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're super beautiful. You touch me. Your heart. Okay? All right, so we move forward. That's one gift. So you have to find the gifts. Find your gifts. Everybody has their gifts. We can fall into traps. We can fall into things that hurt. I'm a victim, but I don't want to be a victim. I'm tired of being a victim. I was raped as a child. For those of you who've never heard that first time on the air, I was molested and raped by my uncle when I was a youth. I had a choice. I had a choice to move forward. I had a choice to stay in the energy that held me back. But I moved forward because, you know what? For me, it was important to move forward. But I learned from those lessons. What happened to me. Very powerful. Very powerful. I took responsibility for what was mine, and I put whatever was his, and I moved it on. Unfortunately, that wasn't the first time I had a situation like that. It happened to me when I was a little kid too, when I was molested. But the reason I share these things with you is because you have to. And I hate to use the word have to, but if you don't move forward, you're going to stay where you're at. You're not going to go any further than you already are. Now, I know that these things are atrocious, and I think the things that happen to me are atrocious. But you know what? Number one, I'm fortunate that my perpetrator's dead. Okay, no longer with us. Passed away. He died of ALS. You know what? I didn't wish karma on him. I didn't do anything. But, you know, Spirit has a way of finishing and wrapping and putting things away. And for me, that was a big, huge, you know, evolution for me. It was a place where I could actually see differently. And I knew I was going to do differently. And so for those of you who are victims, or those of you who've been, you know, in certain situations, things have happened to you, there's hope. There's hope if you allow hope into it. You have to open up a little bit. And you doesn't have to do it overnight. It was a process for me, as it is for a lot of other people. But when I moved forward, when I moved out of it, and when I moved into the space where I felt comfortable, you know, it doesn't bother me anymore. I don't think like that. It doesn't own me. The only reason I bring it up is important to share my story with people, what happened to me. It's just what happened to me. It was a memory. It's over. It's done. I can't fix it. I can't do it. I can just rewrite it. I can only say, hey, that happened to me. You know, I'm Iggy or Ignacio Garcia now today. Today is who I am today. And if I don't move, if I stayed in that old energy, that old paradigm, of that old victimization paradigm, I would probably still be a bitter man. I'd probably have gray hair, you know, I'd probably be chubbier. I don't know. I'm just saying. But I know from working and being and seeing other people and being stuck in their victim roles that it changes you physically, mentally, spiritually. And I wasn't going to allow that to happen to me. And then I know that sounds like it was easy, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I decided that it wasn't going to be hard. And when I was in my 20s, I decided it wasn't going to be hard. And through the 20s, I worked my butt off to just try to figure out, you know, was I gay? You know, did I like it? You know, what part of me invited that into my being? You know, that was very, very difficult. It was difficult. And then today, you know, I don't care. Now it's like, hey, you know, I own what I own. You own what you own. And Spirit has taken care of me. And I'm glad for that. Now, we're moving along. Other ways to help humanity. Let's just start how we're going to help people. There are a lot of us who have families, and there's a lot of us who don't have the necessary means to help one another. So childcare is one of those huge, huge, huge things where people actually need a lot of help in. And so sometimes if you have the capacity and you have the feelings that you want to be able to help somebody take care of their family, or, you know, babysit, you know, so that they can go on a date or do something. Or babysitting could just be just having someone coming across the street. You know, that's the beautiful thing about it. You know, churches do this all the time. You know, create some kind of volunteer, you know, for a moment. You know, work in the village. I'm not a big village guy. I'm more like a community building guy. I have issues with village issues because villages tend to segregate and then they create these hierarchies and they create these different things. But community building is something that I'm really big proponent about, because in a community, we all work together, you know, and then we go back where we come from. In a village, we're in a village and we're stuck there, and then somebody else has the right to say what they say about how you raise or how you look. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got it all backwards. But I do know that the village concept for some reason triggers me as a human being. But community building, it feels more gentle, it feels more inviting, more loving. As a community, we're allowed to work together on these projects and not necessarily be owned by anybody or anyone. And we come to the decisions where we decide together versus we give power to one person to decide over us. So that's why the village concept for me was kind of like, you know, I don't like that. But when I talk about childcare and helping people, if you can help somebody take care of their kid or give them a ride to work, or, you know, just watch them for a little bit, or drop their kid off at school. I mean, that's kind of the community building. That's kind of working together. Of course, I would recommend that you know the people who you would do this to and who you would help. And that's kind of an important thing, because there's a lot of single parents out there, men and women, mostly women in the majority, but they who need a lot of help. And so I invite you to help them out, and if you can. Now, moving along on one of my other points is, you know, preparing food for one another, helping one another. There's a lot of elderly people. There's a lot of homeless people. It's just the basic human necessity is food, eating, helping each other. In shamanic practices, we, you know, in sweat lodge and ceremony, in the end, we have feasts. We have, you know, potlucks or whatever. That's because it's important to know that we're all one, all my relations. And, you know, we have to eat. In this world, which is totally amazes me, how we can have such a big world and yet we can't feed the rest of the world. It's because I was talking about earlier, man gets stuck in that old paradigm that, you know, of control and wants to control everything. So a good meal, help people out. You can. There's a lot of people in your neighborhood. You'd be surprised. My mower broke down. But unless I say, hey neighbor, can I borrow your mower? And, you know, he said, oh, I'll cut it for you. You know, I'm not saying that happened, but, you know, if we don't speak up, if we don't open our mouth, then, like they say, baby doesn't cry, baby doesn't eat. So, you know, you have to make sure that you're working towards, you know, communication. Communication's huge. A lot of us don't communicate. I mean, a lot of us don't want to know our neighbors because, I don't know, we just like to get home and we like to not be bothered. You know, but from time to time, make it a habit. Maybe just lift your finger up and wave, or 2 fingers or 3, and just shake it, you know, just like, hi, and then put it back down. You know, some of us, I don't know if we're shy. I don't know why. You know, I don't even know. Sometimes I wave to my neighbors and they just like, oh, they turn around like, he saw me. He saw me. I thought I had fox medicine on. I was hiding. But, you know, but anyhow, you know, I don't understand how we travel thousands of miles or 5 miles or 10 miles to be in another neighborhood to hang out with other people. And yet we have people next door to us. Maybe we don't want them to know our business. Maybe we feel like we give away too much. I don't know. Everybody has their own reasons, but your neighbors are important. So, you know, another thing how you can help is yard work. You know, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of elderly people, sometimes just taking a trash can down the ramp, down the driveway, you know, to the corner of the road. You'd be surprised. You'd be really surprised. I'm every day I'm surprised just in my neighborhood, the things that, you know, I discover just by talking to the guys and the women who walk their dogs. You know, for 17 years, I lived in a big 1 acre plot and no one was around me, no one bothered me. And, you know, that was my life. But I don't live that way now. My neighbors butted right up against me. We talked a little bit. She gave me all her firewood yesterday because she saw me moving my firewood, which I thought was pretty cool. And, you know, but if I don't talk to her and I don't engage her, and, you know, I have no firewood. And these are just little things like that. Now, this is something that everybody has, but no one really likes to share. And sometimes we really cherish this is our time, giving our time, visiting others, visiting hospitals, you know, doing a service, even creating, you know, a time where you go pick up trash along the side of your road, not necessarily somebody else's road, but just going down the street. There's a lot of neighborhoods like that. Your inner city streets, you know, the inner city cities are getting better, but, you know, a lot of it just has to be because, you know, the mentality and everything that's happening and in the things that go on in people's lives. So why does a rich neighborhood look cleaner than others? Doesn't mean it's clean. It just means that there's a different sense of pride in that. And I'm not saying that in the poor neighborhoods there's no sense of pride. It's just a different style of living, different way of looking at the world. You know, if you have the mentality that you're down and you don't feel up, you're gonna do things that kind of push you down. I've been there. I lived there. I know what it's like to live in the city, in the inner city. I know. So I can speak for that. I can speak from that point of view. And I've also lived in the suburbs and I've seen complete contrast. Why is it? I don't know. Is it education? Is it belief systems? I don't know. So I want to say hi to people who are on the air. And let's see who's on here. Okay, let's see who's on the air with Iggy and Mr. Shaman Guy. So I got David Tucros. I got Shana, Michelle. Let's see. Got a whole bunch of group of people here. I want to say hi to Lisa, Susan. Okay, so we'll keep moving along. Very good. Anyhow, so giving your time, giving your service, that's super important. That's something that's very valuable to us. We all have 24 hours on the clock. We all really hold on to. That's probably that's gold. For us, that's gold. That our time is super important, super precious, because the time that we spend with ourselves and our family and our friends is super, super, super important. So a lot of us don't want to waste time. You don't really waste time. You know, when you literally think about it, okay, what I'm saying. Anyhow, time is an illusion. Okay, it's only an illusion. We create a measurement to record and keep so we can keep track of where we're at in this everyday life, and every day week, every day month, every day year. Okay, so moving along. Being a host, consider opening your house. Okay, book club. I don't know, recipe swapping. These are just ideas. Shamanic studies, you know, holistic studies. You know, everybody has Bible studies, right? You hear a lot of people in their houses, you know, they have Bible studies. Well, why don't you have a metaphysical night at your house? Invite your neighbors over. Hey, I'm going to have a metaphysical night, and you can come over and see what I do. Or you can have, let's see, a holistic night, and we're going to talk about all things holistic. Oh, let's have massage night. We work on massage, you know. You got to get creative. You got to get creative, and you got to be kind of spontaneous about this. It's not something that, you know, everybody likes to do, but, you know, this is about being of service, how to be in service. And if you're going to be in service, it's more about being in service in yourself, in your spirit, your heart, and your soul. This is what we're talking about. Okay? Donating. Donating is huge. Donating clothes, donating, you know, food, donating whatever you can imagine, donate, whatever you think someone would need. That's super important. Super, super, super important. Donating because, number one, it feels good to give. It feels good. And I'm not saying you have to go out and do it because it feels good. I invite you to do it because, you're making a difference in someone else's life when you're giving them something that they need, something that they've been wanting, something that they just can't live without. So donating is huge. Now, another thing, your talents. Think about all the talents you have. Think about how talented you are and the things you have. Giving your talents. Dancing, singing, organization. Everybody has a different talent and everybody has a different skill. Can you use that? Can you share that with the world? That's something, you can ask yourself. Can I share my gifts with the world? We're all super talented. I want to say Andy Lane, welcome to the show. Asta, welcome to the show. And Wilter, Haley, Sandy, and I think that's it. I want to thank everybody for being on the show. I thank you for tuning in. It's pretty cool to see you all there on the air. This is a new format for me. This is a new way of doing it. This live streaming. So if you have any questions, let me know. And Tashana, you talk about volunteering twice a week, and you missed that, but you did it, and I'm sure you're going to go back to it. And it's something that I think a lot of people should maybe take their kids into a food pantry or take them to a homeless shelter and see if they can volunteer and help. Volunteering is huge. Volunteering is huge because there's a lot of people who just can't physically, mentally, spiritually, deal with the world, and that's not their fault. But if we know that we can make the difference in their lives, then it's our duty to help them. Now, let me ask you a question, and this is participation time. When you walk down the street and you see a homeless person, so how do you feel? Do you have that moment where you're kind of going, well, I'm not sure if I want to give them, I don't know if I have anything to give them. I think what happens is most people, give you the impression that they have their stuff together. And when it's all said and done, most of us are struggling, and we're just fortunate that we have a roof over our head. So even to give $5 or $1 to somebody means a lot because that could be someone's meal for the day. So I know that some people have those issues, and I'm not saying that they have to share those issues online, but I think everybody has their reasons. Some people are afraid. Some people are afraid to engage people they don't know. And sometimes they feel like they've been taken. And sometimes they look at homeless people and they go, I wonder if he's really homeless or am I being taken? Regardless, I have a friend who just whops out his wallet and just gives them money and doesn't ask any questions. And when the person wants to give him an answer, he's like, nope, don't want to hear it. Just take it. Thank you. And do what you need to do with it. But, that's the way he deals with it. And then I have other friends who don't really know how to respond when they see a homeless person come towards them and asking them for money. And sometimes, depending on the situation and depending where I'm at and what time of day it is, I kind of, I'm always cautious too. I was just kind of raised that way. I was raised cautious to be on guard, to be on alert, and to do, to be careful of your surroundings. All right, so we talk more about the human aspect to how to help the human version of ourselves. So now we're going to move towards the earthly version of ourselves. How we're going to help the earth. Now, human beings, they talk a lot about global warming. They talk a lot about, the earth. And they talk about, our lives are going to change and things are going to happen. But when you look at humanity, we have a tendency to abuse the mother. Intentionally and unintentionally. Okay, so how do we help her? Now, my concern for humanity is that Mother Earth is going to say, hey, you know what? I'm tired of you. I'm done with you. No more. So I'm not worried about the Earth per se more than what the side effects of what happened if we cripple her, we hurt her. And she's like any body, any physical form, it will repel you. And it will push away. And it will put you in a state where you're not comfortable. And she's good at that. She's very good at that. So, we talked about the hair earlier. So, when we talk about Mother Earth, how do we stroke her? How do we clean her? How do we work? Mother Earth needs to be nurtured, to be acknowledged, to be, It's a living thing, man. It's alive. The Earth's alive. If you plant a garden, there's proof there in itself. It's alive. Mother Earth is a big blue ball that breathes, that cries. Okay? It releases gases. It's just like you and me. You look at your arm, and there's a gazillion things on you, and some of them you can see, and some of them you can't. When you plant that seed, it grows, right? So any seed that you plant on this earth will grow. Anything that you draw from her, eventually will collapse upon itself as well. So the Mother Earth is super important because for our survival as human race, we need her. We need her to be intact to some degree. But we drain her, we empty her. She's just going to re-manifest herself in a way that's completely different than we can even imagine. She's not going to be the way we know her. And if you look at any time in history, there's always been some type of ice age, some type of collapse, some type of catastrophe. And because, that's just how Mother Earth works. And, Mother Earth works that way. Human beings, we have to tread her in a way that's very gentle. So we brush her hair, we comb her hair. If you look at your neighbor who cuts his grass religiously, or maybe you do, and fertilizes it, makes it so super green, and yet looks the other way, or doesn't volunteer, doesn't help, but his little patch of grass is important, and that's okay. But if we all just manicured, if we all just cared enough about the planet Earth, the way some people take care of their lawns, take care of their yards and their houses, you'd be surprised what we could do on this planet. Now, as human beings, we have to work together. There's all types of resources. How we help her. We are also the child givers, the child carers of the animal kingdom. As much as we are displacing all the animals and pushing them away, they're starting to actually respond. They're starting to inhabit our areas of living. Bears, alligators. A little boy was just taken and drowned by an alligator. A bear got into some people's car as they were in the car. Bear opened the door. I don't know how it happened. Just did. A bison, attacked a man not too long ago. So there's nature and humanity will always interact and will conflict, and they will find a place. Because when you think about it, if someone took your house and just kept pushing it further away into a place that you don't really want to live, but this is where you grew up, but you want to visit it, but you can't because there's a freeway there now. Well, the animals have an instinctive, quality in their mind and their brain and just their makeup. They know where their instinctual homes are. Ancestral homes. So we can't blame them. We can't blame them for being the way they are. We're going to see more of that. In Florida, I guess the highest, there's, and I guess down in the swamp areas, they have the biggest missing people report, in the whole country. And that's probably because of the alligators. And I want to say hi to Adriana. Welcome to the show. But, alligators, they're predators. Human beings are not predators. We're actually prey food. We're just lucky that we're grouped together and we're masked and we have dominance because we're virus, because we just spread all over the place. We're just everything. We take over everything. That's what we do. So Mother Earth needs us in the sense of, taking care of ourselves. We have to work together. So the yard work is important. How do we take care of Mother Earth? Well, we trim her, we keep her, we love her, we honor her, and we stand up for her. Sometimes we stand up for, I'm not saying the wrong reasons, but sometimes we stand up for things that don't really make sense. I know there's things that are going on the planet, things on the world, but I don't think as a human race we don't necessarily voice ourselves like we should. Because if we did voice ourselves like we should, then we wouldn't be in these situations and these places and these things that we're running into. If we don't want fracking, then, why is there still fracking? Because there's just not enough activism for it. There's just not enough research for it to say, hey, yeah, it worked, but it worked. When we get involved and we help the Mother Earth, then things will change. But we can't help Mother Earth if we don't change. And we have to give our time as well to help her. And giving our time is to help however we can. Even if it's for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, that's up to you. I can't decide what much time you need. But Mother Earth, she really wants us to help. because she's a living, breathing thing just like you. She needs us. We need her. But she doesn't really need us. That's the rub. You know, a lot of us are like, oh, well, the earth is going to be... No, the earth just changes, man. The earth just becomes something completely different. It'll manifest itself into something else that will harbor and will take care of whatever the next evolution is. The dinosaurs found out the hard way, right? When the big asteroid hit the earth, boom, shoom, change, atmosphere. We're different now. Now we have to go through these different climates and these different cycles. Human beings are going to go through the cycle. Maybe we won't see it, but there will be a race of human beings that will have to go through a cycle of this ice age, of this detriment, because we caused some of this. It will happen, and you can count on that. And I'm kind of glad I won't be there. And I hope that my generation and my ancestors, my future ancestors, my future children and grandchildren can figure it out. That they can figure out how to survive in the cold or survive in the extreme heat. Because one of the two are going to come. Some say it's going to be extreme heat because just the ozone is being depleted. And some say it's going to be the cold because of the way the polar caps are melting. I think it's a mix of both. Humanity will always find a way to survive. And maybe humanity may not make it this time. Maybe we'll be extinct as well. Because the way we live and the way we move in this world, you know, we live like nothing's going to happen tomorrow. Like it's okay. It's not a big deal. Oh, it's tomorrow. You know, we're not really moment-oriented people. Some of us are because we've learned to be. Some of us find that it's super important to be in the moment because that's all we really truly have. And so how do you become a host? How do you become a host to the planet? Well, since we are a host, we are living on the planet, we should be good hosts. We should be good hosts, you know, and we should be part of her as much as the planet is a big host to us and we are her guests. You know, so find ways to value her and to thank her, you know. So how do you do that? Well, stop polluting her. That sounds easy, doesn't it? Stop polluting her. But what do you do with all that byproduct? What do you do with all that byproduct that we create? So we can have our cell phones, so we can have our computers, our toilet paper, you know, all the things that we are very big necessity to us. You know, eventually most civilizations and more societies have actually collapsed because they overuse their natural resources. When the trees are gone, what happens? You move, you find other trees. But, you know, what I don't find out is when they take away a whole jungle, they just don't plant new trees. I don't get that. I don't understand why they won't. Why it's not a logical thing to go, oh, we took all the trees, but maybe we should grow some more. But no, it's just too easy. It's too easy to say, hey, let's just chop this stuff down and move along. You know? That's where the human race baffles me sometimes. That we are so smart, but yet we're so dumb. You know, we know that the oil reserves someday will be depleted, you know, to the point where we can't, you just, it'd be ridiculous to use. But it's all about the money. It's all about the money. They want the money, and that's why we keep using it. We have a natural source of energy right now that is given to us every day. It's the sun. People laughed at the Native Americans, especially the Incas, when we worshiped the sun. They gave thanks to the sun. Why they give thanks to the sun? Because you know what? The sun came out every day, regardless if there was clouds or not. And every day they were blessed, and they blessed their crops. It poured the beautiful gold upon the plants. Kept them alive, kept them green. So the sun was a super powerful being for them. And when you do more research about the sun, you should Google the sun. Study the sun a little bit. You'll be surprised what the sun does for our universe, for our galaxy alone. The battles that it has. And then you can see the correlations of Greek mythology, what those battles are, or Egyptian mythology. You'd be super surprised. You'd be super surprised about our sun. It just blows my mind. You know, that's why the Incas thought the sun was important. Super important. There was no life without the sun. Now, they had other energies. They had other ways of thinking. But, you know, those are the parts of the human. That's the human aspect. Because even though we are human, we still want to find a way to control other humans. I don't know why we do that. I just don't get that. So the Incas were huge about that. The energy of the sun is very powerful and is very, very, very intense. If it's harnessed properly, you can create amazing cutting tools probably with that, because I've seen some of the things they do with the sun. And then you can actually cook with the sun. I've seen ovens, sun ovens with, it's humanity, it will be forced. Humanity will be forced to do the things it used to do and the things that we don't want to do anymore, because we're going to reach a point where there's just too many of us, number one, and there's just too much greed, and the greed will outdo itself, because eventually people will be hungry and people will want, and when you can't grow your food, when it's manipulated and when it's controlled, that causes a problem. That causes a really huge problem. Some, are down on GMOs. Some are down on Monsanto. I understand what these corporations are trying to do, but you know what? Maybe you shouldn't mess with nature. Maybe nature's got it just right. The Native Americans used to do modifications of corn. The corn used to be really small, and they kept breeding it until it got big. So it's nothing new. It's nothing that we haven't done before. But the way it's done now, I think it's wrong. The way it's controlled, the way it's manipulated, and the way we manipulate the mother, and the way we manipulate her children. And we manipulate her children so, only certain chemicals can be used on that so they can grow or so they can keep the weeds down. That's not cool. That's not right. It's not right. And then when we sue one another for those things, and I don't want to get too much off topic. And, the earth has talents too. The earth has amazing talents. She has her waterfalls. She has her oceans. She has her mountains. She has her deserts. She has all these amazing, beautiful things that you can do. So how do you be in service? Honor those, respect those when you're camping. Even the subtlest, the smallest little things. When you go camping, put out your fire, pick up your trash, put it away, dump it. That's the problem. We don't do that. Sometimes we just assume that someone else is going to do it for us. No, it's not going to be done. I've taken many walks down the Olentangy River, and I've seen a little catch basin where all the garbage just accumulates, and I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? And I mean, if I had to think I could actually walk on top of that, I probably would. I probably could walk on that. But I know I can't because it's not thick enough. But in the Pacific Ocean, and you can do your research, anything I'm talking about usually here, you can Google it and find out about it. There is an island building of plastic bags and just plastic rotating, because there's a cycle there, and it just rotates around, and the currents keep moving and moving around. And so this garbage pile that's accumulating there, in the Pacific Ocean, it's just one big island. It's becoming a big island, but what's sad is these birds and stuff are eating this stuff, and they're dying at a high rate because they have no foods. So this island, what is this island? I was curious about this island. And in that location, kind of in that area, there was an island of Mu. And those of you who know the island of Mu, the city of Mu, it's kind of like the Atlantis story, the lore stories of Atlantis. Mu was in the Pacific. And the Murians used to live there. And then they were gone. I believe in the human race has been here more than once. Maybe 3-4 times. I mean serious times. And we did ourselves in. We just didn't know how to survive. We didn't know how to live together. We reached a point that, now it's like, it's just really scary. Because when those plastics break down into microplastics, that causes a lot of problems. Even though it's from the earth. Yes, plastic is from the earth. Plastic is everything that we make, everything that we use is from the earth. And we just reconstitute her and remake it. So we're the mad scientists of the earth. But the earth will find a way to reuse it. But it may not be to our benefit. It may not help us. There are bugs that live in gold mines and stuff they eat arsenic. Okay, so no one thought the arsenic could be eaten, but there are bacteria that eat arsenic. Do your research. I'm not making this stuff up. This is true stuff. But the Mother Earth, how to be of service to her. Do all the things you would do for humanity. But the problem is we don't always do everything for humanity. So I challenge you. I challenge you to go out there and do something completely different than you've done. A lot of us are stuck on our phones. A lot of us are on our computers. A lot of us are just, we spend a lot more time, disconnected from the human